Good morning. This is episode number 11 of Primer, Educational Resources for Scientific Parapsychology. Today we're going to talk about resources that focus on biography and autobiography of people in the field. This is the book ESPRIT, Men and Women of Parapsychology, Personal Reflections. One great way of finding out about a field that you're interested in is reading the biographies of individuals who have gone before. So if you're interested in being a scientist, a great way to understand what it's like to be a scientist is to read a biography. Now, a lot of people who do scientific parapsychology don't rise to the level of individual biographies. There's books on William James, of course, and books on Frederick Myers. There's a biography of Henry Sidgwick. There's a biography on J.B. Rhine. But for the majority of people who toil in scientific parapsychology, there are no full-length treatments of their lives. But there are books like this. This is ESPRIT, Men and Women of Parapsychology, Personal Reflections. It was compiled by Rosemarie Pilkington, and the book that was released recently, about 6 months ago, by Anomalous Books, is actually volume 2. It's a very interesting book. What Rosemarie did was to give certain individuals in the field the same questions and ask them to respond about their lives. We're going to go and take a look at who were the people that she looked at in this volume. This is from a blog by Carlos Alvarado. Now, in this book, and I just wanted to tell you who these 21 folks were, we have Mary Rose Barrington, who's a barrister in the United Kingdom, who spent a lifetime working with parapsychological phenomena. Eberhard Bauer from Germany, who is a historian of the field. William Broad, who we lost this last year in 2013, was a marvelous transpersonal psychologist and deep investigator of what is known as distant mental influences on physical systems. Stephen Braudy, the philosopher. Richard Broughton, who used to be the executive director of the Rhine Research Center and then spent a decade or so as a professor at the University of Northampton. Larry Dawsey, physician who works in alternate medicine and is the editor of Explore. Sally Rhine Feather, the daughter of J.B. and Louisa Rhine, who's run the Rhine Research Center as well and is still very much involved. Erlander Haraldsson, an Icelandic psychologist who's done quite a lot of research on various aspects of the field, but most especially has worked in reincarnation research. Arthur Hastings from Sophia University. Stanley Krippner, a well-known psychologist from Saybrook University. Lawrence Lashan, who's written some groundbreaking works in his life. Roger Nelson, who invented and is running the Global Consciousness Project. John Palmer, the editor of the Journal of Parapsychology. Guy Lyon Playfair, a British journalist who's written a number of important books, including one on telepathy and twins. William G. Roll, who also died last year, was a field investigator and had quite a lot of other interests in the field, especially theoretical. Serena Rooney Dougal, who's been working for many years on a number of healing analog experiments and is also very much interested in meditation. Stephen Schwartz, another executive director of the Rhine at one point, who has been involved in all kinds of remote viewing research and healing research. Rex Stanford, a psychologist who specialized in hypnosis and methodological details and is the person who first developed psi-mediated instrumental response, which is a theory of how psychic functioning works. Russell Targ, the physicist who ran the SRI remote viewing project and is a very deep thinker about the phenomena of the field. Charles Tart, another famous psychologist from University of California, Davis, and also Sophia University, well known for his work on altered states of consciousness. And Walter von Lukadu, who is a physicist in Germany, as well as a psychologist, who's come up with some very important theoretical statements, and is also a person who deals with clinical approaches to people who are bothered by their psychic experiences. So Rosemarie has put together a very interesting book which focuses on these 21 individuals. Rosemarie herself has a PhD in psychology with a focus on consciousness studies that she obtained at Saybrook Graduate Institute, now Saybrook University. She's also the compiler of the first volume of ESPRIT, and this is also available from Anomalist and from a whole variety of online bookstores. They're very easy to get, these books. You'll see Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and so on. And this is a reprint of that original book that came out in the 80s, and you can see by looking at it that she had an equally important group of people who answered the same set of questions about their experiences in the field and their hopes for the field and their advice for new researchers. Among these were Jewel Eisenberg and Monty Ullman, Jan Ehrenwald, all psychologists, Eileen Coley, the daughter of Eileen Garrett. Eileen Coley, who passed away recently, ran the Parapsychology Foundation from 1970 until 2011, was the president at that point. It's now run by her daughter, Lizette Coley. Joseph Rush, a philosopher, Gertrude Schmeidler, another psychologist from Emilio Servadio, an analyst from Italy, Renee Haynes from the United Kingdom, the famous Professor Hans Bender from Germany, Carlos Osis, an American, naturalized American, originally from Latvia, who did some very important work in parapsychology across his life. George Zorab, who I believe was from the Netherlands, who did an enormous amount of important work, and Bernard Grad, who was Canadian. So these are foundational individuals in the field, and Rosemarie has provided us with these wonderful short biographies of all of these individuals. It's a great set of reference books, and it not only gives you information about what a life in parapsychology is like and what you have to do to have the time and the money and the energy to do research in the field, but also because of this one question, what's your advice? There's these wonderful little snippets of advice from all these individuals to new researchers and new folks coming into the field. This is Rosemarie's own website. It's parapsychology-bios.com, and it's got information on both of the books, as well as links to some of her reviews. And the reviews have all been very good. This is just a really excellent volume, and it's a great place to start if you're somebody who's interested in doing work in parapsychology as well. So that's ESPRIT. I hope you'll run out to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and buy a copy of each. I'll have in the description, you will find all of these URLs, and we'd like to thank Rosemarie for having done a wonderful job.